This is Steve Zeltzer with Pacifica and Workweek, and I'm speaking today with Kim Cordova. She's president of UFCW 7, which represents workers in Colorado and Wyoming, and particularly she's representing the workers at Greeley, Colorado, where there's a JBS meatpacking plant. And today there's going to be a press conference around the issue of health and safety in OSHA and the death of 8 workers and the illness of many other workers. So welcome to Pacifica and Workweek, Kim.
Thank you for having me on.
So, Kim, why don't you talk about what's been going on at Greeley and JBS and your concerns about the protection of the workers and their families in the community?
You know, with COVID, COVID hit our Greeley facility very hard, and it was deadly. So we had hundreds of workers that tested positive, that were exposed and were sick with COVID. Some that were placed on ventilators, they were intubated, and unfortunately we lost workers to COVID. And when COVID first hit Colorado, my union, we were very, very active. We contacted OSHA. We asked for on-site inspections, and OSHA has, through this whole pandemic, has been absent, and they have failed to do their job. And so they just recently, late Friday afternoon, we received a notice that they fined JBS just a little over $15,000 for those deaths at the plant, as well as not providing they're called OSHA 300 logs, which report injuries to Local 7, to us. And we are holding a press conference where we are protesting the citation, the amount of the fine, because, for one of actually JBS is the largest protein producer in the world. They posted profits of over $51 billion, and, this isn't even a slap in the face. In fact, a fine that is that small, which JBS does intend to appeal, that is more dangerous to workers than not doing anything. Because now, that's nothing. That's not a penalty, really, for the employer. They have a lot of money. OSHA failed to do their job. Had they come out sooner, we believe that if they were on site inspecting those facilities, enforcing safety standards, we would not have had lost workers. We would not have had to, our workers would not have had to have experienced these COVID deaths or exposure to COVID, or seriously ill with COVID. And, this administration has defunded and deregulated OSHA. And, OSHA told us they couldn't come out and do site visits because they didn't have enough staff. And that's unacceptable, especially during a global pandemic, a deadly virus out, and in these industries where workers do not have control of their environment. And their failure to do their job was costly, cost our members' lives. Our members lost their lives.
And we're speaking with Kim Cordova. She's the United Farm Food and Commercial Workers Union Local 7 president. And Kim, the Defense Production Act that was instituted by President Trump, I understand that there are reports that it was written by these meatpacking companies, the procedures?
I would, because they have such a close relationship with this administration, I believe they had a lot of input. If you look at the executive order, it's to force these facilities to stay open and operate without any type of, either guidance or instruction or penalties to employers, regarding worker safety. And in fact, this administration is pushing for a liability or immunity, protection for employers. So, you combine that executive order with, employers who don't care about workers or safety, and now OSHA's measly $15,000 fine for the deaths of, multiple workers at one facility. This really is a dangerous situation for workers in this country.
And what has that meant for not only the workers in the plant who've been infected, who've died, but also their families in the community in Greeley, Colorado?
It's a slap in the face. I mean, these workers have been devastated and traumatized by, how they've been treated. They're still grieving the loss of their coworkers or family members, and they've been treated as sacrificial employees and as disposable human beings when they are critical and essential to feeding our country and this nation as, part of the food supply chain. This country really could crumble without food workers. And instead of, they'll put on bulletin boards or people will, there have been commercials thanking essential, workers and food workers for their job and their services during this pandemic. But we don't have this administration, elected leaders, or corporations actually treating them as essential or, providing the protections that they need.
And workers who lose their jobs, I understand we've been covering the Foster Farms workers, where 9 workers have died in Central Valley and Livingston. And we've heard stories of workers being coerced to continue to work even when they are sick, workers not getting health care when they lose their jobs. Is that the case as well in Greeley, Colorado with JBS workers?
Well, there has been a reported work while sick culture in these industries. For food processing and meat packing, and that has contributed to the wide exposure of COVID and also the deadly impact. Because workers have to face, these tough decisions, whether or not they risk losing their job or a paycheck, or, financial devastation or risk their lives. And for some workers, that is the hard choice they've been faced with. And, we need real reform in this country. We need laws that protect workers. We need paid leave so that no worker has to make that tough choice.
And when these companies know that there's a COVID outbreak at these plants and they continue to operate despite the pandemic and the danger of the COVID, do you think that those employers should be criminally prosecuted because they're putting their workers in life and death dangerous situations where they are going to get sick and die from this disease?
Absolutely. I think not only should they face criminal prosecution, all of the, the owners should, CEO, the management that are making these decisions, but I also think that they should lose their license or ability to operate their business if they risk the lives of the workers or the community. I mean, this is a community, these workers and with a contagious virus like this, they're part of the community, and this is why we've seen such a spread throughout this country, that it's also a public nuisance, I mean, this has an impact not just on workers in those facilities, but on our communities at large.
And these frontline workers, many of them are Latino, are immigrants. Is that could be a reason that they're treated as they are with as disposable workers? Do you think that has something to do with the fact that they're not really being respected and properly defended?
I do. I mean, this is part of the systemic racism that workers experience. Unfortunately, workers, Latino workers, African-American workers, refugee workers, women, they see, they experience a different America. They don't have some of the same protections that others, may have. And that's why, you see that these workers are treated as fungible widgets, as disposable, sacrificial, not as human beings, certainly not as essential workers, but not even as a human, not even as a member of our community. It's really, really horrible. And COVID just exposed, what these workers face every day.
And you've been taking a leading role in fighting back and publicizing. You're going to be having a press conference later this afternoon. What kind of support have you gotten nationally and internationally for your efforts to protect the workers at Greeley and their families?
Well, I think really this has raised, through our actions has really raised, and exposed this issue. And so, we have had, other media sources or community organizations reach out so that we could continue to expose this issue with, and hoping that our efforts will cause the change that is actually needed to protect these workers.
And what are some of the demands you're raising at the press conference today to protect the workers in Greeley, at JBS, and other meatpacking plants around the country?
Well, one, OSHA needs to do their job. We are going to be meeting at the OSHA facility, or their OSHA office today, and there's a note on their door that they are working from home and working remotely due to COVID. Well, their job is to protect workers. That is absolutely why OSHA was established, and they're not doing their job. We also need to call on the administration to fund OSHA and to implement and, issue executive orders that would, for verifiable and enforceable safety laws and regulations. We need enforcement in this country. We need state and federal inspectors out on job sites to ensure that when a worker clocks in, they get to clock out and go home to their families in the same condition in which they clocked in. We need to push for stiffer penalties. $15,000 for 7 lives, that's nothing. I mean, that's not even to a company that made $54 billion, over 50 some billion dollars. That's not a penalty. That's an incentive. They know where now they know what little minuscule penalty, if you want to call it that, what that's going to do is that will stop workers from coming forward and reporting because they think that nothing's actually going to change, and it's more dangerous to employees. So we need stiffer penalties. We need criminal penalties, around worker safety and negligent companies. So employers need to be held accountable. And, that's why we are protesting today and calling OSHA. I actually sent OSHA a letter today demanding that they face the families of these workers that died and explain to them why they thought $15,000 was an appropriate penalty and why they didn't come out sooner. This is a national, global pandemic, and OSHA was well aware of what was going on at these job sites.
And are you surprised or shocked that in other countries, Korea, Taiwan, China, Japan, that they've been able to protect the people much better than in the United States, which has all the advanced technology, has tremendous wealth?
Yeah, I think, again, a lot of this has to do with, the systemic racism we see within our economy. We judge our economy by how well CEOs and the richest, business owners or the rich are faring. And we're, really, that's a big issue. These workers are treated as, again, as disposable. And also that, I think our country, unfortunately, with all of the division and we're not a unified country, we need a real moral revival in this country. It really to bring back, and have some core values about valuing life for these essential workers. Just about how valuable we are. I mean, I can't believe that frontline workers whom are the backbone of this economy are dying, and people are just sitting back thinking about their next cheeseburger or the next steak they're going to put on their plate, instead of the sacrifices that not only packing house workers but farm workers and food processing, healthcare, all of the sacrifice these essential workers are doing. And it's really, really unfortunate.
Would you say it's profit over lives?
Yes.
So the profit is more important than the lives of these workers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the CEO, they wouldn't send their own kids into these facilities to work, or loved ones. And yes, they're putting profit over people.
Okay, well, I want to thank you very much for joining us. We've been talking with Kim Cordova. She's the United Food Commercial Workers Union Local 7 president in Denver, Colorado, and they're going to be having a press conference today at the OSHA office to demand proper protection and accountability of JBS and other companies who are putting the lives of their workers in danger. So thanks for joining us on Pacifica and Work Week.
Thank you.